We have some more game updates, leaks, and Xbox info to talk about, and Bright Memory Infinite has a comparison from PS5 to the Xbox Series consoles, and the Xbox Series S stands out as extremely impressive. Alright guys, before we get into this, if you're new here, you like what you see, please consider hitting that subscribe button, help this channel grow and help grow this community. Alright, jumping over here to some game updates. The first stuff I want to go over is some more Ubisoft news. If you remember, last week we talked about this report here from the Ubisoft 2023 fiscal year Q1 earnings report, and they went over some big game delays as well as cancellations. The biggest delay of them all was the Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, which was supposed to be coming out in 2022, but has now been pushed to 2023 and even maybe 2024. We have some more updates on some other big Ubisoft games. The first one here is with Assassin's Creed Infinity. And what we're hearing about Assassin's Creed Infinity is that it is just going to be that platform that has many different eras for the Assassin's Creed game. It's going to have single player stuff, it's going to have multiplayer stuff, but it's just going to be that hub where if you love Assassin's Creed, you are going to jump into. Now, one of the settings we are hearing via a rumor from Jeff Grubb on his Games Mess podcast is that one of the settings is going to be an Asian setting, and that Asian setting is going to be Japan, which I think would be an awesome setting to add to Assassin's Creed. What they could do with that, what the world building they could create with a Japanese setting. First of all, I mean, you look at the Assassin's Creed games right now, they are massive. You look at the last three, Valhalla, Origins, and Odyssey, they went away from their original formula, which some people love, some people disliked. I personally absolutely loved the last three Assassin's Creed games, these massive open world RPGs with so much to do, and the worlds in those games are absolutely beautiful. You could say what you want about Ubisoft, you could say what you want about Assassin's Creed, but they make some pretty huge and beautiful worlds to explore, and I think if they were able to do that with a Japanese setting within the Assassin's Creed Infinity base, could be a pretty cool thing to explore. Now, there will definitely be comparisons to games like Ghost of Tsushima if they were to do this, so they definitely have to do it properly, because Ghost of Tsushima, critically acclaimed, an absolutely beautiful, great game, and if Assassin's Creed doesn't want to be behind that, they're going to have to come up with something pretty amazing if they do Japanese setting. But if it's on a platform and there's many other settings, people don't like it, they're going to be jumping over to the different parts of the Assassin's Creed Infinity universe. I don't know if this is going to come true, but there's been so much talk about Assassin's Creed Infinity. I'm hoping they announce it relatively soon and we really get to see what it is all about. The report back when Jason Schreier and Bloomberg put out their official, I guess, leak of Project Red, which is Assassin's Creed Infinity, they say it will be a platform for future AC games. And Ubisoft has also confirmed that this game is going to be a collaboration between Ubisoft Montreal, who did Origins and Valhalla, and Ubisoft Quebec, which did Odyssey. So both of those studios who worked on those massive games are going to be coming together to create one just big platform. So there's been a bunch of Assassin's Creed rumors. The other one as well that we talked about the other day was the Aztec setting, in terms of that being another offshoot of the game, or maybe that's just going to be a part of Infinity. And then there is the stealth style game, the smaller game that was supposed to be coming out this year that we haven't heard anything about yet, which will feature Basim in Baghdad. So we'll see if that actually gets announced, but that could be one of the delays they mentioned during their earnings report. And sticking on Ubisoft, another game to talk about is Roller Champions, which seems like it will now soon be canceled. So this could have been one of those games that they were mentioning was going to be canceled within their earnings report. But this again comes from Jeff Grubb, and he was on the Xbox Era podcast this time, saying that Roller Champions is going to be canceled after season 3. Now, this game just officially launched back in May of 2022. It was in, I guess, a beta form, and people were able to play it, I think, since 2020, and they have been putting out content since then for it. But it looks like now, after season 3, there will be no more Roller Champions content. I've never played this game. It obviously did not get popular, never got off the ground. Right now, they say if you go onto Twitch, there's like 100 people watching it. If you look at the trailer, it looks like it could have been an interesting concept, something that, if it did take off, would have been pretty fun to watch. But this is not really out of the ordinary for Ubisoft. You look at their Battle Royale game, Hyperscape, which was canceled as well. And that was definitely a different take on the battle royale genre in terms of the movement and everything that was within that game. It's just a shame that none of these games have taken off, because people always want new ideas. They always want new stuff out there. And I would say Roller Champions and Hyperscape were different takes on multiplayer and battle royale, but they didn't do well enough to keep putting resources in it for Ubisoft. So when people complain about the same thing coming out, is because a lot of these new ideas, a lot of these risks that these companies take just sometimes don't take off, so they go over to the thing that will guarantee them the most money. And you can see that really going on right now with PlayStation and the Last of Us remake. So we'll have to wait and see if they continue to try different things like this. Skull and Bones will be another game that's going to be a multiplayer game. It is a pirate ship fighting game, and we'll see how that one does, because that's a game that looks like they put a lot of resources in to make, with the graphics and the gameplay, and then the community they're going to be trying to build through that. We'll see if that one takes off. I don't foresee them canceling that game like they would for Roller Champions, because Roller Champions was a free to play game and obviously just didn't work. And finally, here we have a leak for the next Monster Hunter game, and apparently it's going to be called Monster Hunter Paradise. And this was leaked via Discord. In a now deleted tweet, user NeoNega99 pointed out that by experimenting with Discord's backend while using the developer mode build of the platform, it was possible to activate some placeholder events scheduled for later this year. And while doing that, they say most of them were blank, but there was one that invited players to claim a code for Monster Hunter Paradise, which sounds like this is going to be the next really big Monster Hunter game in the series. And with Monster Hunter Paradise, the codes were for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. So this isn't just like another offshoot of the ones that have come out on the Nintendo Switch. And this makes a lot of sense, because there was that huge Capcom leak a while ago, and one of the games that they had in there was Monster Hunter 6, which would be the next big game that came after Monster Hunter World, which did very, very well. So in Monster Hunter Paradise, you can pretty much bet is going to be a game that Capcom announces soon, and eventually we will see invites for this to be able to check it out in terms of a beta, in terms of an alpha, whatever it is, to try out Monster Hunter Paradise. All right, jumping over here to a comparison of Bright Memory Infinite. And this is a game, it's a first-person shooter, fast-paced, has sword combat, looks like it is a ton of fun. I think it's a game that a lot of people were looking forward to for the full official console release of it on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC as well. And now we have a comparison of how this game is running, and it's pretty impressive how the game is running on the Xbox Series X and S, but really specifically the Xbox Series S, especially when you take a look at how it compares to the PS5. So this is from El Analista de Bits, the YouTube channel there that does a great job at comparing these games. And they show off here that the Xbox Series X has a standard mode, a ray tracing mode, and a performance mode, which is also available on the PS5. But the Series X runs the game in standard mode at 2160p, 60 FPS, in ray tracing mode at a dynamic 2160p at 60 FPS. Says here, still typically at 2160p through the playthrough with the ray tracing mode. And then there is a performance mode of 1440p, 120 FPS, which is all three great modes, all running extremely well. I mean, you have dynamic 2160p at that 60 frames per second in ray tracing mode, but if it's typically staying at the 2160, why not just stay on that to get the extra rays and the overall better looking shine for the game? And then you look at the PS5 and you compare those modes. In the standard mode, it is lower, 1800p, still 60 FPS. In ray tracing, again, 1800p, which is typically 1800p. And then in the performance mode, with the 120 frames per second, it is 1440p, but it says here it's usually at 1152p. So you can see definitely a big power difference between the Series X and the PlayStation 5 for Bright Memory Infinite. Now, what I find extremely interesting here as well is when you look at the Xbox Series S, there's only one mode, which makes sense. It is a lesser powerful console than the Series X and the PS5. It's harder to get ray tracing with higher frames per second. And in a game like this that is moving really fast, you're going to want those 60 frames per second steady. They say here that the Xbox Series S only mode is dynamic mode, 1440p at 60 frames per second, typically at 1296p, which means the Xbox Series S performs better than the PlayStation 5 on the dynamic mode, where the PS5 is typically usually 1152p, which is crazy to think about. But the Xbox Series S, the cheapest console of them all, the least powerful, the one that people said would hold back this generation, is performing better than the dynamic mode on the PS5. But overall, this game does look like a ton of fun. It's out now if you want to check it out. And whatever platform you're on, it's going to look great. It's going to run great. But the comparisons between the three with the Series S, I think, is something to keep your eye on, because I think the Series S, with the price, with the value, everything that's in there, is an absolutely incredible console this generation. And to end things off here, just some Xbox updates. Specifically, looks like there is a rumor coming from Ecstasis TV, which is a source that has insider information apparently, and I'm not sure if they've been right in the past lot or whatever, but it's a source that people tend to quote a lot when it comes to this type of stuff. And they're saying here that they have information that Xbox is working on an Elite version 3 of their controller, which I think would make sense, as the Elite version 2 has been out since 2019. So if you look at the time span there, they probably are trying to revitalize that market for the Elite series controllers, put out something new, put out something a little bit different. I'm not sure how they can improve on the Elite Series 2. I have it here. I have the Halo Infinite Edition. It's the best controller I've ever used by far. There's not anything that can compare to this controller. It's literally perfect. I would say maybe the only thing I could see them adding to improve it for the series consoles would be to add the share button on the version 2, because that's a feature that you still can use, but you have to hit the Xbox button and then hit X or Y within the menu, whether you want to take a screenshot or a video. But let's say they do something crazy out of the box, maybe add, I don't know, a third paddle at the back, which may be hard to use, maybe reduce the hair triggers even more, add some haptics in there. I hope they don't add the triggers that are on the PS5, because I really don't think those add too much to a game, and I don't like them that much. I find sometimes they're annoying and I just turn them off. But maybe they'll do that. Maybe they'll upgrade the vibration. Maybe like this picture here, they'll have a little screen. Who knows? But this controller right now, ergonomically and everything, is pretty much perfect. So it'll be very interesting to see what Xbox does to try to improve it with the version 3. And then we have this. Now, this isn't a huge deal. It isn't something that's going to change the way people experience games. But if you remember when you got your Xbox Series X or your Xbox Series S, you turned it on, and if you were like me, you were absolutely amazed at just how fast that thing booted up compared to the previous console. And with the loading screen, and just you jumped right into a game super fast with that SSD in there. And with the old boot animation, it took about 9 seconds to load up, which, I mean, 9 seconds is extremely fast. And it looks like they've actually improved this with an upcoming update. Right now, it's with the Xbox Insiders, and this update will be applied to all Xboxes apparently as early as August. But the boot screen, you can see it here, is loading up 5 seconds faster, only taking 4 seconds to get into your dashboard, which is just absolutely insane. The speed of the Xbox when it loads up, and just the SSD overall this generation on both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S. I mean, there was that huge debate before these consoles were released as to which one was going to be faster in terms of loading, and right now it seems like there really isn't that big of a difference. In fact, there are some games that load faster on PS5 and there are some games that load faster on Xbox, but the difference between them isn't very much. So that's one of the biggest upgrades we got this generation, was just the load speeds with that SSD. And now it's seemingly getting better as they are finding ways to optimize the platform. That generally always happens throughout the life cycle of a console. So you can expect stuff like this, quality of life improvements, to continue to get better as we go through the generation. That's it for me, guys. Let me know your thoughts on Assassin's Creed. Are you excited for Assassin's Creed Infinity? Do you want it to go to Japan? Do you think we will get a version 3 of the Elite series controller? And if we do, what do you want Xbox to do for that controller? Let me know all your thoughts on everything else we talked about. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here, you liked what you saw, consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.